All right. Decided to make this little recording to discuss why I support Ron Paul and why I believe that all people, including Moors, aka blacks, aka Afro Americans, whatever you want to call yourself, should also consider voting for Ron Paul. Now, before I get started, just let me say as a caveat that your opinion was not requested, nor is it required. However, if anyone decides to post any comments on this page or concerning this video, let me first ask that your opinions be based in facts, not emotions or feelings. Anyone who posts on this video, comments on this video, if you post anything that I consider invalid, baseless, ignorant, disrespectful, I will simply erase your comments and block you. Now, that's not to say you have to agree. You can disagree. Just please, let's have an adult conversation, and your disagreement should be based on facts, not your beliefs, not based off your emotions, okay? Now, I don't believe, nor do I think, that voting for Ron Paul is the end all to all of our problems. However, I do believe that it's a good start. Now, the reason I'm supporting Ron Paul is simply this: freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, some of us may have a different perspective or understanding as to exactly what that means. But for me, it means freedom to be an individual, freedom to do what I want to do, as long as my actions do not infringe upon the rights and privileges of other people's person or property. Okay? Outside of that, I can do what I want to do. Now, for me, that's very attractive because I have faith in not only myself as an individual, I have faith in my people. Now, for all the other listeners out there, my white brothers and sisters, or Hispanic, Latino brothers and sisters, I'm going to focus a little bit on my people, and this is in no way meant to separate myself or us from you, or as if we're any different than anybody else. It's only because I feel that my people need to think about a lot of the problems that, while they may in different degrees affect other groups, however, I just want to speak to my particular group for a moment. Brothers and sisters, if you vote for Barack Hussein Obama simply because of the color of his skin, I really believe that is a disservice to not just us, but to our ancestors. The reason I'm saying this is because just because someone has a bit of a tan does not mean they intend on doing anything that is beneficial to you. Case in point, all one has to do is look at the fact that Barack Hussein Obama ordered the attack on Libya. And in that invasion, tens of thousands of black Africans were murdered. There was a genocide that took place in Libya. If you're not aware of it, you need to be aware of it. There's even videos of women, children, and men being massacred, being gutted in public, hung. And so, I don't see how you can be quote unquote pro-black or pro-African and support this man. Secondly, the man has done absolutely nothing for our community, and he has insulted black people over and over again. Case in point, just recently at the end, I believe it was at the NAACP dinner or something like that, the man made a comment that blacks needed to stop whining and crying and take off their house slippers and put on their walking shoes. Now, first of all, blacks or African Americans, and I prefer the term more, but I understand some people don't know that, so I'll just stick with what we're used to. I have not heard any whining or crying by the black community. Quite the contrary, we've been quite silent. Okay? So, secondly, this man would never say something like that to the gay community, to women, to working white people, to Hispanics, or anybody else. So this motherfucker, excuse my language, thinks that he can get on TV, get on stage, and insult black people the way that he did. That right there was enough for me, which I haven't supported the man for a long time. But that right there was, enough for me to say, you know what? I'm not voting for this guy. Now, the reason why I'm voting for Ron Paul, if we don't turn this nation around and we continue to hand over our freedoms, our rights for a little bit of security or for a handout, we're going to find ourselves in a totalitarian government. Now, I know for blacks who will say, well, hell, we've been in a totalitarian government for 400 years, and there's definitely some merit to that. However, you haven't seen anything like what's coming, okay? Now, let's just look at the state of affairs for the black community right now as it stands today, and compare it to where we were maybe, let's say, in the 1920s, because some of my views are going to be quite controversial. First of all, if you look at the statistics, African Americans owned more land in 1920 than we do today. African Americans owned more businesses in the 1920s than we do today. It is my opinion that the 14th Amendment should be repealed. Again, I said the 14th Amendment, not the 13th Amendment. The reason why I feel the 14th Amendment should be repealed is because it basically enslaved everybody, including blacks, whites. I mean, it basically made everybody, quote unquote, corporate citizens or property of the state. Secondly, I believe that the Department of Education should be abolished. I think that individual communities should have the right to decide how to educate their children. If you look at the educational system today, it is not about education, it's about indoctrination and training. If you look at a lot of these kids that graduate from high school today and even college, these people they can't even speak in complete sentences. They don't know anything about history. They don't know anything about law. They don't know anything about civics. So it's not working. And in fact, a lot of the problems blacks and other groups are experiencing is a result of not being taught their history and the truth about their history, including everybody else's. Okay? So I believe that we should have the right to decide how to educate our children. So the Department of Education should be abolished. Thirdly, I should say, I believe that the Civil Rights Act should also be repealed. Now, I know a lot of you are going to get upset at that, but here's my rationale. It is not because, first of all, civil rights are inferior to human rights. Blacks, Hispanics, whites, everybody have the exact same rights, no matter what they look like, no matter where they come from. And so we should have focused on human rights versus civil rights. Secondly, in a free society, you cannot force people to want to live with you, eat with you, or anything else. And if you look at the fact that we owned more businesses before the Civil Rights Act than we do after the Civil Rights Act, I think that that is definitive as to what effect it had on our community. I could care less if someone was racist towards me. I will just go somewhere where I'm welcome and spend my money with those businesses. Okay? People have a right to be racist. I mean, and you have to think about the mentality of people who would demand to be accepted, to eat, and to live around those who don't like them. I mean, to me, that is indicative of some very serious emotional and mental problems. And so, for me, the Civil Rights Act should be abolished. Secondly, another issue is that the war on drugs has decimated our communities. We know that 70% of all drug users in the United States are white. Yet, 60 to 70% of all drug convictions are of African Americans and other minorities. So we know that it has disproportionately affected our communities more than anyone else. And it is used as a tool by the government to suppress, oppress our communities as well as others. So, and then an adult should be able to do whatever the hell they want to do with their own bodies. I mean, the notion that the government should have the ability to regulate what I do with my own body is ridiculous. And for those of you who think that's a good idea, understand that children needs to be cared for and looked after. Adults should not. And so if you are an adult and you want somebody to do something for you, to give you something, well, then you should expect that you should be treated like a minor, and thus the term minority, which actually has nothing to do with numbers and it has to do with mental status. But anyway, so if you want somebody to, and let's just look at the welfare situation. Now, the fact is that there are more white people or Europeans on welfare than there are blacks. That is a fact. However, per capita, there are more minorities of blacks on welfare than whites. Of course, that is has to do more with the economics than anything else. But look, the welfare system has totally destroyed our family structure and our communities, in that if you look at when they first implemented or allowed African Americans to get welfare, the women were told that they could not get welfare if there was a man in the home. And